On today's edition of Andy Ari On3 presented by BetMGM, there was one game that we did not pick yesterday that we definitely still need to pick. That is Vandy, Tennessee. It is maybe the one big game where the home team is favored, but the road team is the one trying to win game number 10 and potentially make the college football playoff. We will talk the rivalry. Yes, we're going to call this a rivalry because this is the potentially biggest edition of this rivalry yet. And after that, we play a game of who gets the job because the coaching carousel is spinning furiously. We will probably have answers as to who will be the new coaches at all of the schools with openings, or at least most of the schools with openings by a week from today. But who gets the job at LSU, at Florida, at Penn State? Big questions. No solid answers yet. Everybody thinks they know, but who's going to get it? We'll talk about it all today on Andy and Ari On3, presented by BetMGM. We are proud to be sponsored by BetMGM. All the lines and totals we use come from BetMGM. Here is how you join, and you can get up to a $1,500 first bet offer. The way it works, you download that BetMGM app, you sign up using the code CFB, as in college football, CFB. You deposit at least $10 in your account. You place your first bet. If your first bet loses, you'll get up to a $1,500 bonus offer in bonus bets. So sign up, deposit at least $10, use the code CFB when you sign up. If your first bet loses, up to a $1,500 bonus bet offer. Now, if you're already signed up with BetMGM, there's a lot going on this week. So you got the Players Era Festival, college basketball tournament out in Las Vegas, huge deal. Lots of great teams playing. It's going to be incredible week of college basketball in Vegas. So on November 25th and 26th, you've got a Players Era college basketball odds boost. Use that odds boost. Increase your potential payout for any bet on a Players Era game. Also, on November 27th and 28th, Thursday and Friday, you've got a college basketball odds boost token, so you can use that to increase your potential payout on any game. Of course, on Thanksgiving, you got a pro football odds boost. We're all going to be watching those games. But Friday, Saturday, all about college football. You got a college football odds boost token on Friday and Saturday, November 28th and 29th. Use that to increase your potential payout on any college football bet. Also, a college football parlay boost token on Friday, November 28th, Saturday, November 29th. Use that to increase your potential payout on a college football parlay. So go to BetMGM, download that app, get signed up, use the code CFB, and make this season one for the history books. Make it legendary with BetMGM. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers are not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. Call 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa or 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code CFB and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Welcome to Andy and Ari On3, presented by BetMGM. We did a crazy pick show yesterday, Ari, where we had 9 games. The road team was the favorite in every one. And yes, I'm counting Georgia as the road team, even though Mercedes-Benz Stadium is officially a neutral site. We did not pick one game. And it was mostly because it didn't fit the theme, but also because I wanted to kind of give it its own platform. Vandy at Tennessee. We did not go into the season thinking this would be the biggest game in the history of the Vanderbilt-Tennessee rivalry. And yes, I think we can call it a rivalry right now. But, oh my God, this one's got huge implications. Vanderbilt is a 2.5-point underdog at Neyland Stadium. Vanderbilt trying to win game number 9. Vanderbilt trying to win game number 10. Tennessee trying to win game number 9. Tennessee coming off a great performance at Florida. What do we think is going to happen here?
Yeah, I think that before we get into the game, I want you to convince me that Vanderbilt isn't eliminated from playoff contention.
I don't think I can convince you of that. I think some stuff's got to happen even if they win 10 games.
Yeah, I think a lot has to happen.
Because they're not getting in over Alabama if Alabama's a 2-loss team.
Yeah, and I wonder if, and this is just like me trying to, figure this whole thing out for the first time, given the committee is, operating a little bit differently than we're accustomed to. But if Texas, is still, as of right now, a blocker, I just
if Texas loses to A&M, they're not. They're going to have 4 losses, so I don't think that'll be an issue.
And then producer River was trying to weasel his way into our lives last night by
let's show the tweet. He's been sending this tweet to us constantly from Brooks Austin, he's a film study guy based in Georgia. Hot take: if both teams win this weekend, it's Tennessee that should be arguing for the 3-loss CFP bid, not Texas. Okay, let's have that argument. Ari, what's Tennessee's best win?
I don't know.
Is it better than Oklahoma? Oh wait, Tennessee lost to Oklahoma. What's Tennessee's best win? Producer River, come on. Come join us.
Producer River.
What's
Tennessee's best win?
Best win is...
You can't even answer quickly. This is why this isn't even an argument. This is not a debate.
Well,
I don't know what Brooks Austin is thinking, but there's no debate here.
Here's the one thing that River said to me in text, and I don't want to roast him. He is a Tennessee guy, and he wants what's best for his program. We're not going to roast you. But this year, to River's defense, the committee has seemingly prioritized who you lost to more than who you beat. So if you look at Tennessee's resume, their losses are to Alabama, Oklahoma, and Georgia, all of whom are current playoff teams.
But they lost by 17 to Alabama.
Right. But if you are to scrutinize a team's resume based on who they lost to rather than who they beat, Tennessee has a better who they lost to.
Oh, buddy, this is bad. River, this is real. I can't even believe you brought this up.
It's like
have some self-awareness before you send this to the chat. Okay, let's go through Tennessee's wins, and you tell me what vaults them over Texas's. Wait, stop. Remember, if Texas is 9-3, Texas will have wins against Texas A&M and Oklahoma. Okay?
Yeah,
both playoff teams probably.
Yeah.
So Tennessee has beaten Syracuse. Mighty Syracuse.
Time, Andy.
Steve Angeli, Syracuse.
Okay, great. So they beat a Syracuse that would have gone 6-6 instead of one that's going to go 3-9.
Perhaps.
They beat East Tennessee State. They beat UAB before they fired Trent Dilfer.
Yeah.
They beat Mississippi State in overtime. How many SEC wins does Mississippi State have right now?
One.
Yeah.
Yeah. One SEC win.
One.
They beat Arkansas.
Yeah.
How many SEC wins does Arkansas have right now?
Not one.
They have 0. Okay. They beat Kentucky.
Yeah.
They beat the crap out of Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kentucky beat Florida. Oh, wait, that's it.
Yeah.
Kentucky beat Auburn, got Hugh Freeze fired.
Overtime.
Yeah.
They beat New Mexico State. Diego Pavia doesn't play for them. That's the team they're playing this week.
Yep.
And they beat Florida. They beat Zombie Gators.
They beat the crap out of the Zombie Gators.
They did beat the crap out of the Zombie Gators. So if we're talking about the best performance, I think it's actually the Florida game. If we're talking about their best win, oh God, this is so sad. Their best win is Kentucky.
Yeah, the schedule, you lose that extra one and just you don't have anything to fall back on. So
the thing that is interesting, and I know that they're home, but I've seen a lot of people saying that a 3-point loss is actually okay this week. And their 3-point loss to Georgia, if Georgia is one of the 3 best teams in the country, you could make the case that Tennessee was the better team on the field that day for the most part. Now, not in the second half, obviously, but
or when it mattered.
Yeah. Yeah. But if you're going to compare losses, I think that they have no leg to stand on when you're comparing wins. But if you're going to compare losses, they're better there.
It's the losses argument.
I have not talked to Brooks Austin about this. I'm assuming this was just pure rage bait and he wasn't actually serious, because you can't possibly be serious when you say that.
Like, Vol Twitter's like a gnat to a light with that stuff, man.
Yeah.
They love
yeah.
it. They love it. And I guess
one
the prevailing,
you should be happy about it.
I'm in the weeds. The prevailing argument that I initially had reading this, I've slept on it. I don't believe it as much anymore, but good content, I guess. Texas took overtime to beat at Mississippi State, at Kentucky. They got the shit kicked out of them against Florida. Tennessee did not need either of those. So
Texas beat the crap out of Oklahoma, which beat Tennessee in Neyland Stadium.
An injured John Mateer, though.
Here's the part.
He was injured when he played Tennessee too.
Not as bad.
Here's the part that we're missing. Texas needs a miracle to be considered. So, like, if you're like number one thing as a Tennessee fan is to scrutinize Texas, well, Texas might not even get in either. Like, they're probably not getting in either. So, like, it's part of the deal is, and I'm with River on this, in that it is new that losses are being scrutinized at a higher level than they have in the past, and wins seem to be emphasized less than they have in the past. That said, I still think you have to have beaten somebody. So now this is the question, because if Tennessee does win on Saturday, you also have to take into account a top 15 win that they don't currently have. So
except Vanderbilt won't be in the top 15 anymore.
They won't. And Texas will have beaten them as well. So like it's kind of like a dead end in every direction. But if it makes Tennessee fans feel better, Texas likely isn't going either. So yeah.
Let's shift this to Vanderbilt. If Vanderbilt wins, I agree with you, Ari, that Vanderbilt is still going to have a hard time getting in, especially if Michigan beats Ohio State, because that just adds another layer on top of that you're going to have to deal with.
And like, I don't know how serious. I'm going back and forth on this. How seriously right now on November 25th, as we head into Thanksgiving, do we have to take into account that there is a chance that 2 Big 12 teams will be in?
We still have to take it seriously, because there's a chance that it is Texas Tech 1 loss against 1 loss BYU, and BYU beats Texas Tech in the rematch. Now, if you watch the first game, it is a struggle to figure out how that might actually happen, but it is theoretically possible. And I do think if that happened, they'd probably both get in, because the committee loves Texas Tech.
Yeah. So you have to probably get to the 10 spot. So in order to get in, because you have the automatic qualifiers, and the G5 team. And I'm looking at it now, and it's like at the end of the year, if Utah is a 2-loss team, will Vanderbilt's win over Tennessee, which will then probably vault Tennessee out of the top 25, be enough for them to even hop Utah? And then we're not even taking into account some of the other teams.
What if Miami beats Pittsburgh and doesn't make the ACC title game?
But there is a path.
I think
Vanderbilt needs carnage. They need carnage.
Can I ask you this question?
Sure.
If Vanderbilt is 10-2 and is left out of the college football playoff, remember Clark Lee has interviewed for all these jobs. If you are Clark Lee, would that inspire you to leave your alma mater and take one of these jobs if they offer it to you?
Yeah. It's really hard for me whenever we have the alma mater discussion, and so many of these coaches are in that window of like, I coach at my alma mater. And I think the way to answer that question is like, what actually is driving him to wake up every day? Is it to win a national championship and be the best head coach ever? Or is it to revive a place that matters to him a lot? And I don't know the answer to that question for him. But if I were the head coach at Vanderbilt and Florida called me,
which
I had no connection to Vanderbilt, I would probably want to coach at Florida. I would probably want to coach.
And they have, and Auburn has. And now I don't know where he sits in the pecking order in any of these. And we'll talk about that when we do the Who Gets the Job segment in a little bit.
And you see my hair right now, right? It's wet. It's
glorious.
Which means I recently was showering, and that means I was deep in thought.
Oh,
and you want to know one of the thoughts that I had while I was in the shower?
What's that?
I think that we have leaned really heavy into it's the NIL era. A lot of things have changed. Certain jobs are not as far apart from other jobs, and we've tried to and made, I think, salient points in trying to, bring Ole Miss and Florida closer together, and maybe even a place like Vanderbilt and Ole Miss closer together because they're in the same conference. If they have the same resources, it should be fine. My question to myself is, have we gone too far into that? Like, have we muddied the waters of what's a good job and what's a bad job so much that like we're overcorrecting like what should be obvious decisions? Like the fact that we are having this never-ending long form discussion about Lane Kiffin and LSU. Like, have we really gotten far enough down that path?
I blame Lane Kiffin for that because he keeps dragging it out. I know,
but as we're trying to talk through what Lane Kiffin may or may not be thinking, we're also trying to talk ourselves into the fact that Ole Miss is probably the same tier now as Florida in terms of jobs, and in the same tier or even quasi tier as LSU. And like, I started thinking about it this morning. That's insane. Like, LSU is a top 5 job in America. And then the other question I have too is, as the sport continues to go through this violent evolution where revenue share is starting to come into play when it comes to super leagues and all the things that could be down the pike in 5 to 7 years, which is probably within the realm that a coach would view his future at a destination job like LSU. Is it possible that the new rules that we don't even know yet, or the new structure of the sport that we don't even know yet, is going to favor places like Florida and LSU in a way that Ole Miss can't currently conceive? So if you're a coach like Lane Kiffin, who's trying to figure out what the next chapter of his life is as he continues to use the book analogy, wouldn't you want to go to a place or envision a place that if there is a class division or if there is a super league, not that Ole Miss wouldn't be in it, but if there was a super league, that LSU would be in position to be at the highest of highs when and if that change occurs? And like, I don't think that we've given that enough.
Well, and Clark Lee would be in the same boat.
Right.
Because of that.
Today,
yeah, I get it.
Vanderbilt,
and also, I'm going to throw a little piece of news in here. This happened Monday. They changed the deadline for creating the new college football playoff format. It was December 1st. Now they have till January 23rd. I still don't know if they're going to change it for next season. It might still be 12 teams. But the SEC wants 16 teams. The Big Ten wants 24 teams.
That's wild, dude.
If Vandy gets left out, though, the SEC is going to push really hard to get that 16-team thing through for next year. Like, if a 10-2 Vandy gets left out, I guarantee you the SEC will
when do we
put the full court press on.
When do we stop this shit? Because then if it gets to 16 and there's a 9-3 SEC team, they're going to be mad that
I know.
Got left out. Like,
Listen,
there has to be a line.
It's never going to stop. You just have to fight. You have to pick the number you like and fight the fight.
Yeah. The Big Ten is like ruining college football with that idea. Like
they won't give up on it.
And like, even you will acknowledge that that's too much, right?
I think 12 is where it should stop. I can live with 16 because it doesn't add a round, but I actually like 12. I would prefer it stay at 12.
Yeah. And there's probably a deeper discussion to have about whether or not the regular season gets watered down even more if you're not even rewarding teams with a bye. Like, if like, everybody has to play in the first round, then like,
right. I think it's exclusive enough now.
Yeah.
And you go too far the other way
and
if you go too many more.
That I want to acknowledge, as we continue to engage in the Miami, Notre Dame, or anybody else discourse about who might get left out. If Miami gets left out of the playoff, it's their fault. like I used to feel like I felt the only team that I've ever felt bad for being left out of the playoff was Florida State, because they're the only one that did everything in their power in a power conference to get into the playoff, and they were left out because of their quarterback being injured. But every other team, like if Miami gets left out as unjust as I believe personally that should be for my principles of how the sport should work, it's still,
they could have beaten
can look in the mirror and
Louisville or SMU and they wouldn't have the problem. Yeah, exactly.
All you had to do is win games against teams you should be better than, and you didn't. So you have to look in the mirror for that. That said, before we get back into breaking down this game, Andy, I do want to say that as I've engaged in conversations with you over the course of the past month about where teams are and where jobs are, and we've said things like, is Illinois as good a better job than Florida State? Or is, Purdue a better job than North Carolina? Like all these discussions that we've had, like I think that I might have gone too far in agreeing with some of that stuff or pushing that stuff.
Well, the other thing about Florida State or North Carolina is if there's a super league, they're going to be in it.
Right. So does the coach have to start positioning themselves? Because we're getting to the point now where 7 to 10 years is basically the life of your contract or the life of what you expect to be when you're making
even if you're successful. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If you're making a coaching decision, though, do you have to start considering, is the team that I'm going to be in the Super League or not? Like, is that something that like Lane Kiffin
let's save this for the who gets the job?
Yeah.
After this, let's pick this game, and then we're going to go to who gets the job, and we can talk about that. All right. So Vanderbilt, Tennessee. Tennessee is favored. Vegas is trying to tell us something here. This is not just because Vandy's ranked higher doesn't mean anything. And the 2.5 point spread with Tennessee being the home team means Vandy by 0.5 point on a neutral field. So basically a pick 'em. Who you got?
Man. I think Tennessee's really good, dude. Like, I know we just got done dumping on them a little bit in terms of their resume, but this is going to be a really hard thing. And I'm currently writing a column that's going to run on Thanksgiving Day about A&M's like need to win that game. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if that mirrors this a little bit, where you have an atypical program that hasn't had a ton of success, who's in a position where they could be playing for a playoff spot, but is building a program. Getting to 10 wins for Vanderbilt through Knoxville would be a huge exclamation point on, and you know how I am with feelings and statements. Like I buy into that. I buy into what that would mean for Vanderbilt's program. And
whether you make the playoff or not, it's a huge deal. If you
right.
To collect win number 10 at Neyland Stadium. Yes.
Because that's the team that has been in your state that, has owned the rivalry. I mean, has it even been really a rivalry, or has it been like we have to play this other power team in the state that doesn't really account for it? Like, I think that this would be massive. So I want to take Tennessee at home because it's less than a field goal and it's hard to play in Knoxville. And I know that Tennessee fans are going to be fired up because you don't want, quote unquote, little brother to come in and put you in a locker. Mm-hmm. But I think that this game means everything to Vanderbilt. I think Vanderbilt's a very good team. I think Diego Pavia is a dog. I'm going to take 2.5 points.
So I picked Florida just because of the history of Tennessee at Florida. And that made me look incredibly stupid. I severely underestimated how well Tennessee would play in that game. I'm not going to underestimate them again. Mm-hmm. Give me the Vols to win and cover and break everybody's heart. And I don't think it'll create a should Tennessee get in the playoff at 10-3 argument, but it will be a nice cherry on top at the end of this season, which, if you recall, when Nico left, we were like, oh, are they going to go 7-5? I think people would have said 9-3 sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, and I think we have to take 2 seconds to at least acknowledge that Josh Heupel's really good at his job.
Yes, he is.
Like, I know that they didn't make the playoff, and I'm sure that there are some Tennessee fans who are frustrated or disappointed by the way that this season went. But if you transport us back to that 2-week period where we were like in Nico nonstop discussion mode, and you would have said, hey, Tennessee, you can go 9-3 with Joey Aguilar, a quarterback, is that like an instant like accept for them? Or do you just
absolutely,
100%? I think that he's done a great job. So, and like this might turn out to look like Florida a little bit, but the one thing I would push back on in that comparison, as somebody who actually hit Tennessee in real life for a ton of money on Saturday, Vanderbilt is so much better than Florida. So, like, I think that like this isn't just like a fun little story comes into like Vanderbilt won 9 games this year, and I think has shown that it can be competitive. And frankly speaking, had Diego Pavia not turned the ball over a few times against Alabama, could have won that game. So, I think that conventional.
This is going to be a really fun quarterback matchup between Diego Pavia and Joey Aguilar. I'm excited. I'm here for it. So you're on Vandy. I'm on Tennessee. Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time in Knoxville on ESPN.
And as you pointed out on Monday's show, Andy, I took a bunch of minuses. I had to take a plus in there somewhere, right? Like, of course, I couldn't lay more points.
It's funny you take the plus on the one that's on the road underdog
on the road. Yeah. Well, I needed to take a dog. I mean, not every favorite's going to win this weekend, so we'll see what happens though.
I don't think it's a bad pick. All right, before we talk about who gets what job, let's talk about where you're going to get your presents for your friends and your family this holiday season. The holiday season is here, and Academy Sports and Outdoors has the legendary gifts you need at unbeatable prices every day. Shop in-store or online at academy.com to save on gifts on everybody's list, from football jerseys to basketball hoops to fire pits to deer stands. And Ari knows what a deer stand is now. He also knows what field dressing a deer means now. So he's learned a lot from doing these Academy ads. The most wonderful time of the year happens here this Christmas. Give the gifts of fun from Academy Sports and Outdoors. Now, my son is actually out of the country right now, so he wouldn't be listening to the show probably. So, Academy, I might have to hit it up for some fishing gear because we are going to the Keys right after Christmas, and I think he would like some new fishing gear for that trip.
You and I are going to have very different Christmases. I'm going to be in Park City, Utah. So Academy,
no shame in that game.
That's your place, dude. You got to give me some reps.
I love Park City. Yeah.
But Academy has us both covered, right?
That's right. Academy, you need the jackets, you need the gloves, you need all the gear for that. You have it there. And yes, a deer stand, which now you know what that is. I'm glad you know. You know that you can field dress a deer and it's much easier to carry.
It's horrifying. Yeah.
Academy Sports and Outdoors. Go to academy.com or shop in store. All right, Ari. Now it's time to play a little bit of who gets the job. We're going to look at the coaching carousel. Let's do 3 schools. Let's do LSU, Florida, and Penn State. And LSU and Florida are related, so we'll do those back to back. And Penn State we feel like they're fishing from a little bit different pond, but there may be some crossover there too. But let's start with LSU. Let's start with LSU, Ari. LSU fires Brian Kelly, depending on who you ask, several weeks ago or last week. But Brian Kelly's gone. They need a new coach. They are heavy into trying to get Lane Kiffin. As of last Friday night, everybody and their mother assumed that Lane Kiffin was going to LSU. Now, I'll point out that the previous Friday, everybody and their mother assumed he was going to Florida. There also still is the possibility he stays at Ole Miss. So let's talk about the job itself and then the Lane Kiffin of it all. And then if Lane Kiffin doesn't pick LSU, what happens? So let's talk about the job right now. Because you were talking earlier in the show about, did we overthink this a little bit?
I think we did. Yeah. LSU was a top 5 job in college football. I know the times have changed. I know it's easier to compete at non-traditional places. But if you are a climber, if you are a person who wants to work at the place, I also think that there's a difference between the ability to build something or the ability to compete with these teams and being that team, right? Just because Ole Miss can compete with LSU now doesn't mean that they are LSU. Do you see the difference I'm making there?
I do.
And like Lane Kiffin had this wonderful documentary about, all the ways he's changed and the lessons that he's learned. And there was these pictures of him leaning against the wall as he left Tennessee and Oakland and the Raiders and all this stuff. And frankly speaking, I don't know if it's possible, or it is possible, but I guess I don't think that it's impossible to change as a human while not changing the fabric of who you are, which is he's a climber. He's been a climber his entire life, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So, I don't know that. I think that Ole Miss is a wonderful job. I think that Ole Miss can win a national title maybe as soon as this year. I don't know. They are a really good team, and they have proven for 2 years in a row now that they were able to get enough good players to be considered to be in that. And I think that as long as the rules stay the way that they are now, that'll continue to be the case. But Ole Miss's ceiling is LSU's expectation. And I think when that happens, you are going to have financial advantages, you're going to have geographical advantages, and you're going to have administrative and fan support advantages that just don't exist at these other places. So if you're going to put me on the spot right now and say, hey, where do you think Lane Kiffin is going to go? Or why do you think Lane Kiffin would go? It's because, it's the nicest house in the nicest neighborhood. You can buy a house in a nice neighborhood and renovate it and make it awesome, but it's still not going to be the mansion down the street. I think that LSU is the mansion down the street. And I think LSU would speak to Lane Kiffin on that level. So my guess, Brett McMurphy texted a bunch of people yesterday and has been asking around. I'm sure you got the text too of, you know, I know nobody knows what's going to happen, but if you had to make a guess of who LSU or what Lane Kiffin is going to do, then I'm very excited to see the results of what he got when he did, because he's really good at those polls. But I said LSU. My guess was that Lane Kiffin would go to LSU yesterday.
It's really interesting because if you boil it down to its component parts, it seems like that would be the decision. Now, I think that not being able to coach Ole Miss in the playoff would tug at me a little bit.
Yeah.
Would tug me toward Ole Miss and staying a little bit. But yeah, if you're saying who puts you the closest to winning a national title, 3 of the last 4 LSU coaches have won the national title. Like, that is a fact. Lane Kiffin would know what he wants to do. I think you'd probably see Ed Orgeron returning to LSU in some role if he takes the job. You know, Scott Woodward doesn't work there anymore, so I don't think that would be a problem. I think Lane would know exactly who to have on the staff. He's worked in this environment before. He knows the recruiting landscape down there. He knows who recruits well down there. The question I have, and this is not to say that he shouldn't take the job. You know, Lane's been pretty reliant on the transfer portal at Ole Miss. At LSU, you need to be more reliant on high school recruiting. Do you think he would be? And do you think the reliance on the transfer portal at Ole Miss is because it's harder to recruit at a high school at Ole Miss? Now, I point out that they've gotten good players out of high school at Ole Miss, like Quinshon Judkins, who didn't wind up staying at Ole Miss, was an out of high school signee that they found.
Yeah. Well, the question you have to answer, and maybe he's the only one, it was the strategy at Ole Miss what it was because it was viewed as a necessity, or is that the way he prefers it? You know,
correct.
Like that's always the you know, chicken egg situation there. It's like, well, if you go to LSU and you have 10 5-star players or 10 top 150 players in your state that are dying to play for you every year, like that's a layup. Like, you know, like who's not taking the layup? Like, is he going to go drive to the basket with a clear ability to lay the ball in and then kick it out, or is he just going to lay it in? So like, to me, I think that he would, like, that's why LSU is one of the top 5 jobs in America. It's not just the stadium size, the fan buy-in, and how much it means to people down there. It's the fact that you already have half your recruiting class finished every year before everyone else is starting, which then frees up more time to go do the other things that you need to do, which is big time out-of-state prospects, transfer portal, and, you know, managing your program. So, and Ohio State has that same advantage. You need to, like, that's and like, Lane Kiffin has done a remarkable job, but when you're talking about the amount of money that it's going to take to get this done, doing it with somebody who has never really illustrated the ability on National Signing Day to stand toe-to-toe with the teams that LSU is expected to beat is kind of scary. Now, I had those same thoughts about Kalen DeBoer, and he's been recruiting his ass off. So Kalen DeBoer never signed a top 200 player in his entire career when he took the Alabama job, and they're doing just fine. So, you know, I think he would do that because it's there. And who wouldn't want good high school players? Who wouldn't? So
exactly. That's why I brought it up, because I really don't think that's an issue. I think that's one that people are going to bring up because of his history recruiting at Ole Miss. But I think it, to your point, that's more out of necessity. I think if he was at LSU or Florida, his high school recruiting would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, and who's the perfect candidate that checks every box? Like, there's going to be an inherent thing that scares you in every single decision you make.
I mean, Lane Kiffin's the candidate that checks every box at LSU, Florida, and obviously to stay at Ole Miss. So he is the goal for all of these schools.
Has he signed a top 10 class in his career, though? He hasn't, right?
USC has.
Was he a top 10 class at USC?
I believe he was. Yeah.
Okay.
I think he had a couple.
That makes me feel better about what we're talking about.
Yeah. So let's just posit, what if he stays at Ole Miss? What if he picks Florida? If you are LSU and suddenly you've got to move down the list of candidates, who would you be looking at?
Well, you didn't answer the question for before you go. What did you say to Brett?
I think I said LSU too.
Okay. Because the one thing that we have to acknowledge before we move on, What is it? Pavlov's law? What do you say that?
Pavlov's dog.
Dog. That might not be the right thing, but the right expression, Andy. Bear with me here.
Pavlov's dog is the one where he would ring a bell and feed the dog, and ring a bell and feed the dog, and ring a bell and feed the dog. And then he took the food away, and then when he rang the bell, the dog still salivated.
Okay, that's not at all what I was getting at, as you can imagine, because I'm an idiot. But what
are you talking about Schrodinger's cat?
I'm going to tell you the thing, and then you tell me which one it is. Okay.
Okay. All right.
The shortest or the most likely scenario is often what you get. What is that?
Occam's razor.
Occam's razor. That's right. Pavlov's dogs. You know, we got there. Look at that.
Yeah.
My dumbass and your brains, we finally got there.
All right.
I think the Occam's razor here, based on the way that the two jobs are situated, based on where LSU stands in the pantheon of coaching jobs, and Lane Kiffin's behavior all point to that. Like there's, you know, unless he's like, you keep saying he's a weirdo. He's a weird Pavlov cat. I don't know what you want to call him. It's like was this 4D chess, or is this just obvious what's going to happen? Sometimes we overthink the plot. I've lost a lot of games.
Or maybe he's always wanted to coach Florida and he picks Florida. Like you still have to, with human beings, you still have to consider these things. So in the event that he picks something else, who would your next call be to? Because I know who mine would be.
Is yours Eli Drinkwitz?
I do think there would be a call to Eli Drinkwitz. I think Eli Drinkwitz is on their list. My next call would be Kenny Dillingham.
Yes, and you've been on record saying that quite a bit. I should have said that. That makes sense to me. I think the fact that he's kind of done it 2 years in a row makes me feel better, because a lot of times when coaches catch lightning in a bottle, and he spoke about this at Big 12 Media Day that we were at earlier in the year, of like sometimes teams pop up and they've got really good years, then the next year they stink and they go back into relative obscurity. And that was the number one battle that he was facing. And it's like ASU got dealt a pretty crappy hand this year with some of the injuries.
He's winning games without Sam Levitt right now. He's winning games with Jeff Sims. Like the guy knows what he's doing. And I also, he had such a teardown to deal with when he got there. Like the fact that he got them not just competitive quickly, he got them to be the best in their league very quickly is a big deal.
So do you think what you would do in the call that you would make and the call that LSU will make if they don't get Lane Kiffin are different? What do you think they're going to do?
I do think that's a call. Now, Eli Drinkwitz and Kenny Dillingham have the same agent. So it's probably a call to that agent. Like, which of your guys wants this job more? Which do we like better?
Yeah.
And you know, LSU is going to say which one they like better. And that's who the target will be. And there are going to be other people involved too. But I think Drinkwitz is one that people would definitely want to talk to.
Yeah. Because like we get so fixated on what is going to happen with Lane, but the contingency plans haven't really been discussed all that much. And like I don't even know like what LSU's contingency plan really is.
Yeah. And I'm sure they've got one, just like I'm sure Florida's got one. They've been talking to people all along. It's not like they only talk to Lane Kiffin. And that's what I want to point out with LSU and Florida, that everybody has been talking to everybody. So there is a contingency in place, but I also think LSU can attract pretty much anybody.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason they got Brian Kelly out of Notre Dame. Now, I don't think they're going to get like Marcus Freeman's not leaving for them. Ryan Day's not leaving. Kirby Smart's not leaving. But I do think they're the one out of this bunch that if there was a surprise, like if they didn't get Lane Kiffin, there was a surprise like, oh, we didn't know he was looking for a job. Like that would be.
I think the one. LSU as a place could make a 8 out of 10 coach feel like one of the best coaches in college football.
Right. That's why Jimmy Sexton and company are working so hard and telling Lane Kiffin that if you're going to leave LSU, probably is the better spot. Because Florida, it's my alma mater. I love it. But Florida has won national titles with Hall of Fame coaches. And Hall of Fame coaches only. And Florida's only had sustained success with Hall of Fame coaches. LSU hasn't necessarily needed Hall of Fame coaches to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the difference.
And I also think that it makes their coaching search a lower leverage situation. And I almost feel like they might not be, and it might work out, but it's just like, does LSU actually need to participate in this bidding war? Does LSU need to have Lane Kiffin? Like, I think that like John Summerall would do just fine there.
Oh, I think John Summerall would actually do great at any of these jobs. Yeah.
But it's like, how much would it cost to get?
We're not talking about the Auburn job, which is the one we think he's going to take. So
could they pay John Summerall $9 million and he would just walk there?
Yes.
So when you think about the financial investment that goes into getting a coach that's never won a power conference before, what's a better use of your money? What's a better gamble? What's a better bet? Like, I honestly think if I were up to me, I would hire John Summerall for $9 million over Lane Kiffin for 15.
Interesting. I don't think anybody in the LSU fan base would agree with you on that.
No, sure. I mean, because everybody is and this is the thing that everybody's made mistakes with. Texas A&M made this mistake with Jimbo Fisher. You go out and you get the guy that you've heard of. You go out and get the guy that everybody's talking about because it legitimizes you as a program, that you're the one that they chose. But making a splash on your opening day press conference isn't nearly as important as making a functional hire.
The difference between Lane and Jimbo Fisher, though, is Jimbo Fisher had won a national title. Lane's still trying to get there.
Yeah.
So the odds of Lane just packing it up because he got a big God contract, pretty slim.
And my point isn't that Lane is going to pack it up. And I don't know how to have this conversation without it sounding like I'm dismissing him and his accomplishments, because I certainly respect.
This is not a Lane Kiffin conversation. You were having a more I get your point. It's a more broad-based point that the next great one may not be the person you're thinking. Like when Oregon needed to replace Mario Cristobal, they went and hired Georgia's defensive coordinator. I don't know that most Oregon fans before he was hired knew who Dan Lanning was, but now they are so happy they have him.
Yeah, it reminds me of like NFL fans who are watching the NFL draft, and you know how they zoom in on those people who go to the draft and they pick a player that like
they pick an offensive lineman and they boo.
They never heard of. It's like, and then they're all like, "Oh, what the hell?" And it's like at the number 2 spot in the Cleveland Browns select Myles Garrett, and everyone's like, "Why didn't we get a quarterback?" It's like, what? Well, it worked out. And I think the Browns are the worst possible example because all their draft picks suck, but Myles Garrett.
I mean, Myles Garrett's been awesome, but
I'm saying, like, don't get caught up in the excitement. Like, drafting Myles Garrett was not as exciting as drafting Johnny Manziel, but what draft pick worked out better? Like, you don't have to go sign Johnny Manziel as your coach to make a functional hire. That's my only point. And like Lane Kiffin is the flavor of the month, and he's earned that. And I don't doubt that he's going to be good wherever he goes because he's illustrated that he's been good, very good at Ole Miss. So my only point is that I think that everybody gets fixated on one candidate in every cycle. And how many times has that one candidate been the truth? Who are all the other candidates that, have been in similar situations where 8 teams want him and he's the guy that have actually panned out at their next place?
Urban Meyer, Nick Saban, that's pretty much the list.
Yeah, and I guess Jim Harbaugh, but it took 6 years.
Right. Yeah.
But, if you're looking around at the top 10 coaches in college football, all of them were coordinators for the most part first.
Yeah. I mean, Dabo was a receivers coach. So, yeah.
Mike Elko was one of the few ones that was a head coach, and he was a head coach that you had never heard of unless you were an A&M fan.
Yeah. Now, it's so interesting how the dynamics of this work. But again, with Lane, I don't think it's a Jimbo situation. So I think if you're Florida or LSU and you get Lane, you're not worried about you gave him all this money and he's just going to be like, I'm good. That's not going to happen.
My only
because he still wants to win a national title.
If your number one qualification or your number one motive when making a coaching hire is to make your fans excited because they know who that person is, you're doing it wrong.
I agree. I don't think, look, I say this a lot, and I say this to ADs. The goal is to win games, not to win press conferences.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think you're going to win games with this person, then by all means. Now, the thing with Lane Kiffin, I think you will win press conference and
games. Yeah.
I think that's
price $15 million.
Exactly. Ari, let's talk about another school that wants Lane Kiffin. But first, we got to talk about OmahaSteaks. I can't really think of anything that would bring me more joy than to open my front door and see a giant box of meat.
Guys, Andy's not hyping you up too. Like, I see how this man eats when we're eating. If there's carbs or if there are sides, this man favors meat. Always.
And I think everybody naturally, like biologically, we just do. I realize there's probably some vegetarians out there, although we've probably chased them off by this point. But OmahaSteaks is incredible. And right now, they're having their sizzle all the way sale. So 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. And our listeners get a $35 off discount using the promo code Andy and Ari. So that's ANDY, ANDARI, Andy and Ari. That's right. Ari gets to be in the discount code this time. You get a box of your choosing. So you customize the box. You decide, do you want a bunch of tenderloins? Do you want a bunch of New York strips? Do you want burgers? Do you want the tenderloin, the ground tenderloin burgers? Oh my God.
Slap City, dude.
So freaking good. But you decide exactly what you want in your box, or a box that you're giving as a gift to the person who you will be their new favorite person. So go to omahasteaks.com. Enjoy 50% off site-wide with the Sizzle All the Way sale. $35 off with the promo code Andy and Ari at checkout. Do not forget to add some of that Omaha Steaks seasoning to your box. Do not forget, because it is perfect with everything. omahasteaks.com. The code is Andy and Ari. ANDY, ANDARI. All right, Ari. Let us go to Florida. Still looking for a coach. It's, as we're recording this, I'm about an hour removed from getting a text from somebody at Florida, feeling a lot better about Lane Kiffin today. And I just texted back,
great.
I love this stuff so much, because the way this has worked with Florida is, a couple Fridays ago, everybody at Florida thought they were getting Lane Kiffin. They were ready to roll. They were planning, they weren't planning the press conference, but they were kind of envisioning what it would look like. They were thinking of Lane's son, Knox, playing for Buchholz High, which is actually where Knox's mom went to high school. They were thinking about all this stuff. And then a week later, all the LSU people were sure that they were getting Lane.
Yeah.
The Ole Miss people still holding out hope that they're going to keep Lane, though I feel like the Ole Miss people are starting to sour on this whole thing.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I think that there is a certain point, too, where it's just like, okay, just go. I think people get to that point.
So here's the thing. We just got through talking about LSU, and we talked about all the advantages the LSU job has. Obviously, the Florida job has certain advantages as well. You can win national titles there. Steve Spurrier did. Urban Meyer did. As I said, when we're talking LSU, the difference between Florida and LSU is, to have sustained success as Florida, you've really needed to be a Hall of Fame coach. Now, perhaps Lane Kiffin is a Hall of Fame coach. Perhaps he fancies himself one. We do know that he grew up worshiping Steve Spurrier, would like to be a Steve Spurrier type coach, is the closest thing college football has right now to Steve Spurrier when he was at his, at the peak of his powers. And that's where I keep telling people, be careful assuming anything with Lane Kiffin here. And I also include staying at Ole Miss in this mix here too. Because I think everybody now is assuming LSU, he's going to LSU. It may be that he's just always wanted to be the Florida coach and he picks Florida.
Yeah. And that would make sense to me. It's
not like you can't win a national title at Florida. You can.
Yeah, I would have loved to see Steve Spurrier at the Twitter machine, though. That would have been electric.
Oh my God. Well, and knowing Coach a little bit, like, he likes to workshop his jokes before he runs them out there.
Okay.
And so getting the raw, uncut, hate-ass Steve Spurrier jokes without having them workshopped to a few different assistants on Twitter would be spectacular. Spectacular.
Okay, but the conversation is, so did you tell me what you guessed with McMurphy?
I did. I said LSU.
Okay, so let's work off that. Let's assume that Lane is not going to Florida for the sake of the argument.
Okay.
You live in Gainesville. Where do we go from there? And let me ask you one before you answer that. Is Jedd Fisch somebody's name that should be higher up in this conversation?
I am glad you mentioned that because that is the name I was about to mention.
Okay.
Jedd Fisch, Florida grad. He's at Washington. They're an 8-win team right now. Now, part of that is the Big Ten's schedule draw that they got, but he had a complete rebuild there. He obviously did a complete rebuild at Arizona. The hard part with Jedd Fisch is he has a $10 million buyout to get him out of Washington, which I think some might think is prohibitive. Listen, if you're willing to spend all this money on Lane Kiffin, Jedd Fisch is going to be cheaper than Lane Kiffin. Everybody we're going to talk about is going to be cheaper than Lane Kiffin in the long run. So that's not the issue. Jedd Fisch would love the Florida job, has always wanted to be the Florida coach.
He wears a visor.
I think if he wears a visor, he'll talk some shit. Probably not as much as Lane. But I do think I think he's one that would get a call. John Sumrall's one that they've already been talking to a little bit at Tulane. Yep. Eli Drinkwitz is one that I think they'd be talking to. Eli Drinkwitz is the one that when you bring his name up, the fan base, you see their faces turn down and they frown and they hate it. I don't really get that because this is a guy who recruits his ass off and seems to do everything he can to put his program in the most advantageous position, like lobbied the state legislature to change laws so he could sign better players at Missouri and wins games at a higher clip than Missouri's supposed to win games and recruits better than Missouri's supposed to recruit. Like,
I feel like Eli has been your candidate from the beginning. Like if you were in charge.
Not really, because like I would take like Jedd Fisch or Eli Drinkwitz, I think would both do very well. Like what Jedd Fisch did at Arizona, I don't think people appreciate enough. Like that first full cycle recruiting class he signed at Arizona that had Noah Fafita and Tedero McMillan and a bunch of other players who were going to play in the NFL was a masterstroke. And it was a lot of high school recruiting. It wasn't portal stuff.
Yeah.
And so I actually think both those guys would get the job and then bring a lot of talent to Gainesville. So I don't think you lose either way there. I think both of them could do the job well. I think Sumrall could do the job well. I think it would be hard for them to hire another group of 5 coach after Billy Napier. But you know me. I hate the whole, we can't hire the guy that's like the last guy we hired. Everybody's different. Every situation's different. Like there's a reason Auburn's all over John Sumrall. There's a reason if Lane leaves Ole Miss, they're going to be all over John Sumrall.
Yeah.
So.
And he's a handsome man. That helps.
He is a handsome man.
Being a handsome man helps.
Well, listen, understanding the league, understanding the environment you're in also helps. John Sumrall played at Kentucky. He's been an assistant at Ole Miss. You know, he won 2 Sun Belt titles at Troy, which you're saying, oh, that's not a big. No, it's being in the middle of the recruiting area where you're going to have to recruit and getting the best players for your level. It's understanding that, which same as Tulane. Same thing with Tulane. So I would think one of those 3, but let me throw another name in there. Clark Lee.
Okay. And that's how we got off onto this already. And I think he would be when we had him on the show and he was talking about how they fixed up Vanderbilt from, like the way they gutted it inside out and, we're plowing the sidewalks themselves and, teaching them how to stretch, all those things I think is great. And if you are willing to do that type of work, going to a place that doesn't need nearly.
Right. If you can keep a lot of this Florida roster together from this year, you're going to start in a pretty good place.
Yeah. It's like somebody who remodeled and demoed and remodeled an entire home. You would hire that person to remodel your kitchen.
Now, can I tell you the one question I would ask Clark Lee if I were Scott Strickland?
What's that?
Are you bringing Jerry Kill? So for those who don't know, Jerry Kill is the former New Mexico State head coach. He also was the Northern Illinois head coach. He was the Minnesota head coach. Jerry Kill is one of the best football coaches in the world. He has a seizure disorder that made it very hard for him to keep working as a head coach. And he had to leave Minnesota because of it. He ended up retiring at New Mexico State, even though he was working miracles there. So he was the one, and he brought their offensive coordinator, Tim Beck. Tim Beck was the guy they hired at Vanderbilt from New Mexico State to be the OC. That connection brought them Diego Pavia. Jerry Kill came, and Jerry Kill is a very active part of that coaching staff. If Clark Lee's bringing Jerry Kill with him, ride. Let's ride.
Yeah. And, one way that you can remember who Jerry Kill was is he is often confused with the Minnesota coach who was eating a dilly bar in the snow. Remember that meme?
It was not Jerry Kill.
It was not, but people think it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, it's the question I'd ask. It would be a very important question that I need the answer to, because as good of a job as Clark Lee has done at Vanderbilt, Jerry Kill has been there for all the good stuff.
Yeah.
He's been there for the turnaround. So I want to know if he's coming.
About James Franklin a little bit, because James Franklin did what he's doing at Vanderbilt before it was easier to do it.
Agreed.
But yeah, no, anybody who has gotten more out of less, I think, is a good candidate, especially because Florida isn't a disaster.
No, and that's the thing. Yeah. So you've got to decide if you want to keep DJ Lagway, which is strange that we're having that conversation, because a year ago it would have been like, of course you're going to keep DJ Lagway.
Yeah, do you even want to at this point? Is it interesting?
I think most coaches would. I think most coaches look at DJ Lagway and go, I can fix that.
Yeah.
Give me those tools. Let me fix him. And I think most of the coaches who would be involved in this search would say that. I think Lane Kiffin would say that.
Yep.
So we shall see. I don't want to, it's a hard to, I don't think I can pick one. I don't think I can say this is who's going to be Florida's coach, because I still think they're in it for Kiffin. I don't think Kiffin has ruled them out yet.
Yeah. Jed's a friend. Jed Fish is a friend of the program, so that'd be good if he moved down the street from you.
Well, and he's also, he loves his alma mater. Loves his alma mater. And I'd be curious, we've talked to Jed about this. His college roommate and one of his best friends in the world is Howie Roseman, who's the best GM in football. He's the Philadelphia Eagles GM. Would Howie help Jed get a GM at Florida that kind of helps usher them into the new era? Because that's a big question. With Lane, one of the things that may have spooked Lane a little bit is Florida was talking to GM candidates, and it was all former NFL guys. And now when they realized that was going to be a problem for Lane, because Lane wants to bring his own person, he wants to handle, personnel. He does not want to have someone parallel to him on the org chart. They said, oh, no, never mind. But I actually think Jed would be more comfortable with that, because Jed's worked in the NFL.
Yeah. And also one other selling point that Florida has that Washington might not is that Florida's campus is nowhere near an active volcano.
Jed's not worried about that. We asked him.
I know.
He's not concerned about the volcano.
Yeah.
But we get hurricanes, so there's that.
Are we going to wrap this thing around? Because there's one question that we have to answer here, Andy.
Okay, sure.
Which is, if Ole Miss is going to do the ultimatum thing, and not allow Lane Kiffin to coach,
which I think is happening,
cut off their nose to spite their face, who does that mean that they're going to be able to get? Because if you're going to kick your coach out of your playoff run, it better be.
Well, that's not gonna prevent them. Every coach is going to look at what Ole Miss has done from a personnel standpoint, the system they have set up with Walker Jones and the Grove Collective, and they're going to want to go there. And
I know, but if you were doing it from a timing aspect, because your whole thing is, well, Ole Miss has to have an answer, or
Well, I think they would go after John Sumrall, which would really affect the Auburn search, because I think John Sumrall and Auburn are headed for headed for a union here, but. Here's the thing with John, because remember, John Sumrall might also be in the playoff, but the difference is if you're going from Tulane to an SEC school, you can be the coach in waiting at the SEC school and coach in the playoff.
Yeah.
You can't do it if you're going to another SEC school.
Yeah. Although I think you could do it if we could all just be adults in the room.
No, you can't be adults because you'd have to be recruiting guys on your roster to your new school at the time.
Wouldn't care.
Yeah, that's why you're not an AD.
I know. I wouldn't care because I'd want to win a national title or put my team in the best position to accomplish.
But it wouldn't work that way. It would be, the dynamics would be weird. And like, there's a reason if you talk to ADs, not one of them would say, I'll let him coach.
Yeah. It just would stink to be worse because you let him go, miss out on an opportunity that you're desperate to have again because you're worried about the future instead of the present. That's all. That's just like the way I view it.
It's your job to worry about the program, and the future of the program matters too. So, all right. Before we get to Penn State, I want to show you a couple things.
Oh, yeah.
Look at these babies. So, PaniniAmerica.net to start your collection of the best college and NFL stars. These are 2 Tyler Warren autograph rookie cards. So, one of these is a luminance. It is numbered to 700. This other one is a turn of the century from Donruss Elite rookie card. It is numbered to 499. Tyler Warren is a badass. And the next Penn State coach is going to be looking for the next Tyler Warren. But you should be looking for Tyler Warren cards. And I don't know. And look, what's the one you want? Like we ripped these Ohio State Blaster Box packs. I was looking for, I got a Julian Sayin the other day. Like, I want some Julian Sayin cards. I want some Jeremiah Smith cards. PaniniAmerica.net. Get yourself a box and start ripping some packs. Ari, what do you have?
You watch Monday Night Football?
I sure did.
Here's a Bryce Young Tricolor out of Select PSA 10 that I've been holding on to. He's good, right?
I think he's going to be good. Yeah, I think
right?
They need to get some more pieces around him, but they're going to be able to do that. But I think we're realizing that the situation he got thrown into is tough, but I think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback.
Watching, it's so funny because we always talk about in the pros, like, oh, if you have it, you have it. It's like, well, Bryce Young looks a lot better with T-Mac, Xavier Legette, and Rico Dowdle running the way he's been running. You know, you put some pieces around somebody and make them more.
Well, Tedero McMillan's awesome too. He's been really good. He had a couple drops last night, but
no, he's a pro bowler. So yeah.
This is going to be. There's a lot of really exciting young players, but the fact that they've got these college players, and that's the most exciting thing to me is like I love like just looking at Tyler Warren in his Penn State uniform makes me think of when they lined him up at center against USC. I love Tyler Warren so much. So PaniniAmerica.net to collect your favorite college and NFL stars. Ari, let's talk about the Penn State job because it's been really quiet. And I think they've probably done a good job of keeping a lot of leaks out. But this is the job I think is the most pressure of any of the jobs because Brian Kelly did not give LSU what they wanted. Obviously, Billy Napier didn't give Florida what he wanted. Hugh Freeze didn't give Auburn what they wanted.
And LSU
James Franklin made the CFP semis last year. He won 13 games.
You
better win quick here.
So as we get into this, I want to ask you the one thing that is like been floating around Twitter and that there's like a lot of people who are like convinced of this, that Kalen DeBoer is a candidate for Penn State.
Okay, yes, let's clear this up now. I made phone calls on this at the end of last week. I've got no indication that Kalen DeBoer has any interest in the Penn State job. Maybe if he lost to Auburn, maybe that situation changes, but I'll tell you right now, the people at Alabama who matter, the people who make decisions at Alabama, love Kalen DeBoer. Even if he loses the Iron Bowl, they're not going to stop loving him. They want him to stay there for a long time. I don't think Kalen DeBoer is leaving.
Okay. I just wanted to clear that up.
Yes.
So where does your compass lead you in this discussion?
This one's hard for me, but I've been saying the same thing for the last couple of weeks. And it's this. If Bob Chesney, who's the current James Madison head coach, had already moved on to be the Syracuse or the Boston College coach, then there wouldn't have been any debate. He'd already be there. or you would already have a deal, kind of, framework of a deal in place and just waiting for a season to announce it. But I don't think that's the case. I don't think, I know they've talked to him, but I don't think he's necessarily the number one candidate, though I think he probably should be. So I'm not sure exactly where they are in their pecking order. But for those who don't know Bob Chesney's background, if you're looking for someone who has had a background similar to Curt Cignetti, it's the guy who succeeded Curt Cignetti. It's not just because he's at James Madison now. It's because Bob Chesney went D3 head coach, D2 head coach, FCS head coach, FBS head coach. And he succeeded at all of the places that he's been. So, he was at Salve Regina, was D3, Assumption D2, Holy Cross FCS, James Madison FBS. He's probably going to win the Sun Belt this year. He's won, he was a 3-time Patriot League Coach of the Year at Holy Cross. He was a 2-time New England 10 Coach of the Year at Assumption. So, this is a guy like Cignetti who succeeded at every level.
Mm-hmm. Love that. And it's actually shown to translate. And I know people are just like, they've never been coaches who win. Here's another one that I wanted to throw out.
He's also an expert in the geographic area that Penn State gets most of its players from.
Yes. Pat Fitzgerald.
I don't think he's going to get it. You want to know why?
Why?
Let's look at Pat Fitzgerald's last 2 years at Northwestern.
They were bad. You don't have to look it up. I know.
Yeah. The goal is to win games in the Big Ten. He was not. David Braun is performing better at Northwestern than Pat Fitzgerald was at the end.
If you look at Pat Fitzgerald's output in 5 of the last 7 years that he was Northwestern's head coach, this was before the NIL era, and this is before you could get players to come into your program. He was getting more out of less at a rate that no one else in college football was doing it, and he sustained that success for a 3 or 4 year period. So if you want to talk about guys who have squeezed every last drop out of the towel, he has done it, and he didn't do it once or twice. He did it like 4 years in a row. So
I will push back on your last 5 of the last 7. So they went 3-9 in 2019. They went 7-2 in 2020, but I think we can pretty much throw out any result from the pandemic year.
How many times did they go to the Big Ten championship under his leadership? Was it 2 or 3?
Twice.
Okay. And he was doing it at a time.
One of those was 2020, which doesn't count.
Yeah. I think he's a good
2018 definitely counts.
Yeah. The fact that they were in it at once, but they were a pretty good team consistently.
I think he's a really good coach. I'd put him at Stanford in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Somebody who already navigated a high academic institution. I just that's somebody who I think is going to be a surprising candidate. Is he going to be a head coach in college football somewhere next year?
I would hope so, but I don't know if he's going to.
Yeah. Who else for Penn State?
Clark Lee.
They are interviewing.
I would ask Clark Lee the same question at Penn State that I would ask him at Florida. Are you bringing Jerry Kill?
Did you see that Terry Smith, the interim head coach right now, who Penn State's actually playing pretty well for, is going to be interviewed?
I think Terry Smith is a legitimate candidate for this job.
Yeah. What did you think of the 409 pin that he won?
I don't care.
Yeah. I just thought it was an interesting.
You're not going to drag me into that argument.
Yeah. It's an interesting maneuver is all I'm saying. Cause you're trying to get attention from Joe Pa loyalists while also, I know this is a fun and interesting show, but there's a dark alley to go down on that one. So
yeah, I'm not getting into that argument. You want to get the Joe bots on your side? Congratulations. Great.
Yeah. But that's what's happening there too.
Yeah.
So, who else?
Producer River wants to explain the 409. Joe Paterno won 409 games.
Yeah.
He had some of them vacated by the NCAA. So people are saying that's not that the vacating of the wins was not legitimate, and then he won and yes, we all know he won 409 games. Is that good?
Yeah, and you know how it ended. We don't have to go down the road there. But, I just thought it was an interesting maneuver for somebody who's trying. If you're talking about the Penn State job, I don't think it would have been responsible to at least not acknowledge it, that he did that.
Right.
So, and he's interviewing, reportedly. So, anyway. Sorry, I didn't mean to drag it.
I'm trying to think of anybody else who fits the profile. Because this is one, we always thought this would be one that maybe Matt Campbell might leave Iowa State for.
Yeah.
And I heard Matt Campbell's name in another search, and it didn't make any sense because it was the Arkansas search. And I'm like, well, Matt Campbell's not going to leave Iowa State for Arkansas when he's had all these other opportunities.
Yeah.
But Penn State, you could understand that. And I think he would do really well there. This is one I don't know if they've talked to him, if they're interested. Oh, here's one that I do believe they've talked to that I think is really interesting, that I think is a really good coach who, if he got the job, would do really well, but probably is not one that a lot of people have thought about. Mm-hmm. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Kalani Sitake.
Yeah. You know how I feel about Kalani.
Kalani Sitake is a hell of a football coach.
Yeah.
Hell of a coach. Now, he's at BYU. For those, if you don't know, he's at BYU. They have very much outpunched their own weight. It's a hard job at BYU. The recruiting piece of it's hard. And it's interesting because I think people thought, oh, he's not movable. He's happy there.
Because that's his alma mater too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's not because he's unhappy, but I think there's a ceiling at BYU, and Penn State's ceiling is considerably higher. I think Kalani would like to be involved in the search for some of these jobs. I think if he got one of them, he'd be good at it.
I do wonder too how much, and maybe if this is something that you've been at BYU in going there and living it and being a coach there for as long as he's been the coach there since 2015, right? 2016.
Yes, since Bronco Mendenhall left for Virginia. Which, by the way, Bronco Mendenhall was great there. And he left for Virginia because he just wanted to try something different.
Yeah.
It's a different recruiting environment. It's a different everything.
Yeah. Living in a world where you're contingent on that honor code would be hard to navigate. And
let's not forget, they're sitting there with one loss, still in the mix for the Big 12 title. If they beat UCF, they're going to the Big 12 title game, still in the mix for the college football playoff. They were going to kick him off the team, but they were going to suspend their starting quarterback for 7 games for violating the honor code, which this particular violation would not have gotten him suspended at any other FBS school.
Yeah.
They start a true freshman. They're still winning like this. That's how good a coach this guy is.
Great coach. One other curveball candidate that I think is kind of popular in message board culture. I don't know how real it is or how likely it is, but Brian Hartline is somebody that moves the needle for them.
I'm fascinated by that because, again, Brian Hartline, offensive coordinator at Ohio State, is the best receivers coach in the world. That's not hyperbole. Is Ohio State's ace recruiter. Is potentially ready for a head coaching job. This is the kind of assistant you'd want to hire. Who can get you great players and build a culture. If you're going to hire an assistant, this is how you do it.
He has been at Ohio State long enough, both as a player, but now most recently as a coach, to know how the sausage is made too. In terms of
I was reading the Letterman Row board, and they're like, "Do you think he'd tarnish his Ohio State legacy by taking the Penn State job?" Come on, it doesn't tarnish his Ohio State. Ohio State job isn't open. He wants to be a head coach.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of part of the deal, though. I mean, you take that job understanding that, we had this conversation about Luke Fickell when he was the hot candidate and whether or not he would ever go coach at Michigan during the Jim Harbaugh intersection. And it's I don't think he would have ever done that because Luke Fickell, maybe Michigan is different, but I don't know if Penn State, they're
it's
rival,
the same. It's not like coaching Michigan.
Thing. But you do have to take into account that there will be a segment of Ohio State fans who resent you for doing that, but that's also not important.
I don't think Brian Hartline's worried one iota about that segment of Ohio State fans.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if he gets a head coaching job this cycle, because I do think he's probably ready to make that leap.
And I wonder if Ohio State's imminent potential deep run in the playoff might make it harder for him. But going from assistant to Big Ten rival, I think, is a much different scenario than it is being from head coach too.
This is also one where taking the best recruiter from the staff of the best recruiting program in college football right now, who is a conference rival, changes the power dynamics in the conference.
And he brings the type of player that Penn State has been longing for years.
Because if Brian Hartline is not at Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith is not at Ohio State. Jeremiah Smith plays for Miami right now.
That'd be wild.
So what if Jeremiah Smith played for Penn State?
If Jeremiah Smith played for Miami, there wouldn't be a college football playoff debate right now. I'm comfortable saying that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how important this guy is to Ohio State. It's a legitimate question, and I think he should be a legitimate candidate at a lot of places, including Penn State. We'll see who gets the job, though. We may know in a week.
Dude,
we may know in 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to get through Thanksgiving, and then all hell's going to break loose in the most beautiful way, but I'm excited.
You're damn right. Damn right. Oh, so much fun. Mega Board Wednesday coming up tomorrow. You better believe we're going to start Lane Kiffin Lane Kiffin thread, because we're on Lane Kiffin watch. The watch continues until he tells us where he's going. We'll talk to you tomorrow.